Hey everyone, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce a new upgrade kit I have just completed for the 1537 Klingon Cruiser, aka Katinga. Uh, those of us who have built this kit in the past know that it's not the most accurate or the most detailed of kits, so I thought I'd take a few choice areas and just upgrade the details a bit. One of them was a commission from Todd Walker. He wanted the bridge, so I did the bridge and I thought, hey, while I'm at it, I'm going to do a bunch of other pieces. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show off all the pieces that come with the kit, and also I will be going into how to install them into the kit itself. Some are pretty easy, some require a little bit of editing on your kit. So I will be right back with the upgrade kit itself. Alright, so here we have the kit itself. It comes with a replacement for the bridge area. It comes with a panel for underneath the rear of the shuttle bay area. These two go into the rear on either side of the impulse engines, two little detail parts. Here is a sleeve for your rear facing torpedo launcher. Here's a corresponding clear part for that. This clear part comes with a sleeve already in it, and that's for your forward launcher. Here is a little kind of lighthouse for your bridge dome. And we have the two impulse engine caps here. And we have the corresponding clear pieces. And here's the bridge dome. Here, a closer look at the bridge dome. See, I put a lot of detail into this. A lot more than the kit has. We'll show off the kit piece here in a minute, just to get a look at both of them. Here's the underslung piece. Here we have the detail pieces that go in by the shuttle bay. And again, we'll show off where that is. We get the kit out of the box, but here's one side. See, a lot of detail in there. And as you can see by the light coming through, you will want to light block the backs of these, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, it's a nice detail in there now. And here is the other side, I believe port side. So again, we have a lot of detail in that piece now, where there wasn't much before. And again, we'll show that off. Same thing with the caps. You got more correct detail for the studio model. And then the clear pieces I actually designed with a honeycomb pattern in them, because the studio model does have this honeycomb pattern in these engines, and it looks really good lit up. So let me get some of the kit parts out of the box and show you how these work in tandem with those. Okay, so here are the model kit pieces with the upgrade kit pieces. We're going to go through these really quick. First things first, we have our shuttle deck, minus the grill in front and the two chiller grills on the side, and also the back piece. But that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on this piece. This panel here goes right underneath here, and it keys into this little half moon and sits on a shelf. So that's how that goes in there. Really easy. This kit does have detail, as you can see, and it's pretty appropriate, some of it, to the model kit that they were given, or rather the pictures of the studio model were given. It's not horrible. I mean, for the time, you gotta remember this is 1979. But they neglected to put any detail on this panel, and the reason they did that is because this panel shouldn't exist. The kit is a little bit wrong, actually a lot bit wrong when it comes to the impulse deck in the back section here. We'll just call this version a prototype. How's that? Anyways, we put this like that. When all is said and done, it overhangs about that much. So what I did is I just created a simple detail panel for you to glue on right there. And that goes on right like that. And we'll do the assembly part of this right now. You glue this on with super glue. You put it on an angle that's flat, and then you put another right angle on the sides so that it sits where you want it to. There's your assembly guide. Pretty easy, I would say. But yeah, it created this detail piece. These details, a lot of these details, in fact most of them, are actually on the studio model itself. They're just not represented very well, or if at all, in the kit. Like these cylinders, these parts, this here, this section back here, they're all on the studio model. Most of them are actually back on the impulse deck. You can kind of see this section right here, those little doodads. Well, that should be more shaped like that right there. This section my thumb was next to. See, that's actually more what that looks like. So I kind of took and I expanded a little bit upon it, and at least the details are represented now on the kit. It's just a simple little panel. So here is your forward-facing photon launcher. This goes in the bulb, the Cobra head. It's all keyed brilliantly with this little nub. Anyone who's built this kit knows about that nub. So what I did is I made a clear piece for the photon launcher. It's going to be hard to show any details here because of the nature of clear piece, but you can kind of see those little holes, the main hole, and then there's a bunch of holes around it that kind of give that look. We will be light blocking this very well, and you'll be able to see the details a lot better when we get to that point. The sleeve is keyed for a 3mm bulb, and I don't think, at least at this kit, at this scale, you'll need more than this 3mm bulb. And I've made the tolerances very, very tight, so that if you push this in here and you accidentally drop it, you're not going to lose it. It's going to stick in here. In fact, I need a pliers to get these out of here. And the LED is showing. I've stuck these in and pulled them out a few times, so the LED is starting to get a little banged up. So yeah, that is for this. All we're going to do is we're going to cut that out, and we're going to slide this piece into place when we are ready to. We'll show that off again in the assembly part of this video. Next, we are going to go, that's the last, we're going to go over some of this stuff back here. This is some of my favorite stuff. So we have these two detail pieces. Let's see if I can show those off. Dremel's getting in the way here. Put that off to the side. So here's a detail piece. It's on the back of the ship, and again, I used some very actually good pictures of the studio model to get some of this detail in here. And for the life of me, there's a little piece in here that looks exactly like a little wrench that they just put up on there. It's kind of silly. They'll do stuff like that because they don't think anyone's paying attention. They'll just put silly stuff in there, and you're gonna have to live with it. There's a little wrench there forever. So yeah, that's pretty close to the studio model, I think. We can see that the kit part here is very shallow. It does have some of the high points. It does have those little chairs. It does have the cylinder across there with the 3 cylinders on it, like the studio does and my piece does. You can see those little cylinders on the end there, and those little chairs in there. You will have to light block this quite a bit, as you can see. You get light going through it. But you can see this is very shallow. There's not a lot to it, and it does kick back in there quite a bit. So I made one for the port and of course the starboard side. So these pieces, even got the little computer fan. You can see it right back here. Right there. So those will go, we'll replace these. We will be cutting this off, and we will be cutting out this portion of the ship, or at least a lot of it, because that's where those go. They go in there. We might have to do a little bit of putty work in here, guys, but I don't think it'll be too bad. So that's where that goes. Of course, it'll be flush with the with this panel here when we're done, but That's how that looks. So those are those, and you can see by this I have cut out, we actually have new caps for our impulse engine. And these are, again, closer to what the studio model had. There are actually little greeblies on the inside of these, little sections here. Hard to see, but they are there, and they are there on the studio model. But there's little greeblies in there, and on the other side. And of course, you got that more of a correct shape there, as opposed to these two little lines. You do get decals on the ship that go here. What else comes with this are these little clear sections. As you can see, there is a honeycomb shape in there. So all we do for these is, after you get done drilling that out, that's pretty easy. You just put a drill on the or a knurling bit on the old Dremel and just went around, and then I just took some files and got that pretty good. The Dremel got a little bit out of hand, kicked on me right here. That's why this is kind of kicked up like that. But once this is in place, you won't even see that. So all we do is we take this, and this just designed to set right in here carefully. The tolerance on these are very, very tight. Again, there we go. Just put it in there like that. As you can see, just fits in there. And then that just fits right on here, like so. And you glue it in place. A little glue around the outside of this, and voila, there you go. You have it. It's in place. So that's how that works. I would light block this very well before doing any of this assembly, because you're going to have a nice red light behind there, and you're going to see the honeycombs. We'll show that off too. We're going to take a red LED and put it behind her just to give you an idea of what it looks like all lit up. Because this is my favorite part of the one of my favorite parts of the upgrade kit. So let's try to do some. There we go. And you can see the honeycombs in there. See the light behind it. There we go. Yeah, you can see those honeycombs. I'd almost put a breathing bulb in there. On the studio model, I think there are 2 bulbs actually illuminating this. I'd almost use like a light strip. Right there almost looks perfect for the light you want from these engines. So that is that. One more thing with this deck we have to do. We're going to have to do a lot of cutting. A lot of cutting into this, a lot of cutting into the ship itself. As you see, this is a back panel that just, it's a flat surface to a flat surface, and you just line it up. It lines up, it lines up. So we're going to have to be cutting out large sections of this back panel here. Not the whole thing, though. I wouldn't go that far. But we're going to have to cut out where those impulse engines go. We're going to have to cut out where these sections go on the side and here, because we have a rear-facing photon launcher. And I created this little sleeve for it, and this little detail piece, which you can't see any of the detail on because it's not light blocked or painted, but trust me, there's detail on this little piece. Let's see if we can kind of show it off here. You can kind of see it. Here's a little bit of detail. So this is designed, again, these tolerances are really tight in here, so you got to get this in here. When it comes time to put this in here, you really got to line it up and make sure it's lined up perfectly before you start pushing it in. And you will need to push it in with some sort of tool, because again, I got these tolerances really tight because I didn't want it to go anywhere. Also because you're going to want it that tight. So at the back of this, there's a little hole. Again, that's made for a 3mm. Where's my 3mm? Here it is. Put it off to the side. This is fairly tight as well. I don't want to push it in all the way. But yeah, you can see that's not in all the way. It's not coming out. So we'll get our pliers. Yeah. So this piece is angled. You can see there's an angle to it because the rear of this also has a slight angle to it, as you can see. So let me get this lined up. So once you have this lined up the way it should be, with that angle, this will be flat against the hull like that. And we'll just glue that in like that. We're also going to light block this too and give it a little paint on the inside, but that's just how it's going to go in there. And we're gonna be getting rid of most of this, not the outer edge here, but we just want the center of this gone. We'll get to that in the assembly piece. So lastly, we have our bridge dome and upper deck. This thing goes on top of the old Cobra head, and as you can see, it is fairly detailed, a lot more detailed than the original piece. I have a painted version of this we'll be showing off here when we get to the assembly, but you can see all those details showing up just fine here, and they'll show up even better once we get some paint on it, once we get a wash in there. I even have all the edge details there. I have the correct details on the back here. It's more like 2 lines of these little indents. Same thing with the bridge or the tactical dome. That little vent there, you can actually see that little vent there. Some of my favorite pieces on this are this little cylinder section with the sphere in it, and this little vent. But yeah, you can see all the even in this trench, I got details in this tiny little trench. This whole section on the studio model came off, so I kind of made it look like it could pop off, but obviously it can't. But on the studio model, yeah, you can see there's even a little bit of a underslung trench there because that's what the studio model had. And depending on the photograph and photographer, they might have slapped this on here. I got a photograph of this slapped on here, and it's kittywampus because they didn't put the bridge dome on properly. You can see all those details on the top there too. I put some very, very thick lines in there so you can get a nice wash in there. I kind of did the same thing on these sections. I raised them a little bit so they're easier to mask off. But once you get a few coats of paint on here, the paint, it doesn't seem like it, but paint adds up fast and adds up in layers. And we're talking 0.0000 of a millimeter. So those will look in scale and proper to the studio model once we get our paints on there and once we get everything masked off and done with these sections in here. I have to look at these sections. I have this thing painted green and light blocked, but I don't have any of these painted yet, and I think I'm going to hand paint those. So yeah, and the front edge here has detail on it too. This is my favorite, the front edge details. I love those. So this thing also comes with a clear piece. This right here. This goes up inside the dome with an LED attached. Let's attach the LED just to show you. And this is the really tight tolerances. I'm gonna have to take the pliers to get that off. But this will go up in here. You'll glue it up in there. I'd advise light blocking the back side of this and the LED itself, but otherwise. And the inside of this, obviously, but that'll go up in there, and let's show that off. It's gonna be a little bright, and it's gonna blow out the bridge dome, but there we go. You can see you got your little red light in there now. And again, I'll get the painted one out here, and I'll show that off. But yeah, so that is what that is for, and that is it for the upgrade kit. Now we're going to get on to the assembly of this, and I will show you exactly what you need to do outside of this little panel because we already went over that. But yeah, everything else here, the photon launcher, the engines, these parts, this just needs paint, and it goes on the bulb. There's multiple sections to the bulb. I did want to show this off. This is the part they give you with the kit, and yeah, they didn't really go out on detail, mainly because the studio model picture they were given didn't actually have a lot of detail, didn't have any of this bridge, didn't have any detail back here. So you may say they're inaccurate, but for the photographs they were given, it's not bad. Some of the shapes are off, obviously. These shapes are off. They didn't even follow these shapes, but yeah, in comparison, you can see their stuff and the new resin bridge, all this nice detail on it. Uh, yeah, we will show this. Actually, we do need a little bit of assembly with this, just a touch, but not much. So anyways, we're going to get going on this. We're going to get some stuff done, and I'll be back, and I will show you how this all fits together in a second. Here I'm hugging out the forward-facing Photon launcher. This is the model kit piece that goes in the bulb at the front of the ship. I should be checking the upgrade kit piece to this. I am not, and I actually remove a little bit too much material, but that's okay. I go in on the back side and I fill it. But yeah, just to be safe, you should constantly be checking as you're removing this material. Here I'm sanding on the flat panel that goes on the underside of the shuttle bay deck. This is the piece that gets that kind of rectangle detail part. I'm sanding on it just to give the glue a little bit more to bite into when I put these two pieces together. I don't know if this is a necessary step, but I like to do it just in case. Now I'm cutting out the hole for the other impulse engine. I like to use this smaller knurling bit just because it affords me a little bit more control than a larger bit would. After the bulk of the material is removed with our Dremel, I go back in and fine tune with my microfiles. The flat file here is great for doing these kinds of areas. I have a triangular shaped one. That's great for getting the corners straight. A good rule of thumb is you can always remove more, so take it easy when you're going with the Dremel. I would leave about a 2mm lip around the edge of these pieces. I would also, as I am doing this and as I am filing, go and assemble the grill cap piece, the opaque piece, with the honeycomb clear piece, and just test fit these as you're moving around and cutting and filing, just to make sure everything lines up properly. And here's what it looks like with all the material removed. You can kind of see the 2mm edge I've got around the engines here. And we're just going to test fit our pieces into place and see what those look like. Now I'm removing material for our rear-facing Photon launcher. I made a huge mistake and I didn't actually measure the hole I was cutting. The hole should be 6.54 millimeters. Now measure that diameter from the center to the outside ring. That is the interior diameter of the tube. So when I go to put my tube on, I'll have a little bit of a lip, which I shouldn't have if I would have measured correctly. Now we will be adding our detail pieces on either side of the impulse deck, the ones that go on these sections here and on the other side. We need to cut these out at a very specific angle right there on the starboard and right there on the port. So what I'm going to do is just take a clipper and I'm going to cut these sections off right at that angle. After I'm done with this, I will be going back in and filing and sanding and fine-tuning this angle here. On the bottom half of the main body is where our impulse deck gets glued on to the ship. You can see these areas in here will all have to be removed for our lights. These areas are where our detail pieces for the kit will be located. I'm just going to take a pencil here and mark off around where the areas need to be removed. This is not exact. I'm just marking off where the parts are. I'm going to remove more material than what I'm marking off here. And now I'm going back in and removing those areas that I marked off. I did have to remove quite a bit of this section here, but you'll want to leave as much as possible for your impulse deck. This is the bulkhead that it does attach to, so leave as much as you can. I have our rear bulkhead impulse deck glued in and I'm clamping it down just to make sure it stays where I want it to. I have our detail pieces in place. They are super glued in. I've got the top half of the hull in place just to make sure everything lines up the way it should. Now to get our bridge on this section of the deck, we need to remove these two little guide pins that attach the kit piece onto the head here. All I'm going to do is take a nippers and clip those little sections off here. And now I'll go back through with the X-Acto blade, and I will not aim this at my thumb. We'll do this intelligently, like this, and we'll just remove the little pieces that are left there on either side. And then I'll be going back through and getting the rest of that with a microfile. There's not too much left here, so the microfile will just easily take care of this section. And with our filing done, we can just set the bridge into place and it will fit neatly on the deck like so. And then we just have to go in and add super glue to the rear section there and along the front edge. We also have those two little vents that go into place too. Here I am dry brushing the impulse engine inserts. I'm getting a little paint on my brush, and then I'm getting most of that paint off the brush, and then I am sweeping it across in a up and down fashion like this, and that just gets a little tiny bit of paint along the surface, and that's what I want. It'll make these impulse engines pop a lot better. This is purely an aesthetic thing. This is not necessary to the kit being assembled. I just think this looks a little bit better than leaving them as a unedited piece. Here I'm doing a little bit of light blocking on the insert for the bridge dome. I don't actually know how necessary this is. I'm just doing it just in case we get a little spill into the bulb itself. I don't think we will, but just in case. Okay, so we are in the puttying process of the rear section here. You can see detailed pieces are in place. I did have to, when I went and put the top on, I did notice that I had to rasp out a little bit of an angle on these in order to get the top to fit, and I might need to rasp out a little bit more of an angle. That's not too big of a deal. Just have to, these pop up just a touch, so when you put the top on, it kind of pops it up there. So I just 2 seconds with a rasp, with a nice meaty rasp, and that was taken care of. Everything else was fine. I'm trying to kind of meet these angles up a little bit better. Right here where this kit piece matches this piece. So I got a little putty in there on both sides. Puttying up the bottom, you'll have to do this regardless of the upgrade kit. You just have to do it a little bit more on either side. And actually you'd have to do that with the kit piece anyways, because the kit piece comes over here too. So it's pretty much just the same. You're puttying up this line. And this is round 2 of the putty. Hopefully the last round. We're going to sand this smooth when it dries, and I'm going to throw some paint on here. So I will show you what this looks like when that's all done. I've got a green mixed up. It's not quite the right green, but it's close enough for this demonstration. So I'll be right back with some more. Okay, so we have the bridge and the top deck here on the kit piece. It does give some nice heft to the this piece here. You might want to think about reinforcing the neck. See, the neck goes into this bulb piece, which is 2 halves, right about there at the back. Let's see if we can get that together. Yeah, at the back there, you might want to use a little brass tubing in there, and then on the opposing side, because you're adding some weight. You're going to be adding some LEDs, not only in here for your photon and probably your window lights, but also for anything on the bridge here. Let's just put this here. We are missing a little piece. There's just a panel that goes under there, but that is what it looks like on the dome there. Let's see if we can get it proper. There we go. Looking pretty nice there, all put together. And there was just a little bit of a nub that popped up at the corner. I just sanded that down so that this thing was a nice, just smooth angle. Otherwise, it just kind of popped out a little bit. Nothing all that drastic, but yeah, I think that looks pretty good there. I don't think you'll have to do any putty work here. at the edge. You can see it set down really nice. And I just have this on here with some clear Elmer's glue, just as a test. And, you know, it's not doing so bad, is it? So yeah, that's what that looks like. I do have a painted version right here. I kind of did a quick and dirty paint job on this. I didn't bother trying to match the green. I just mixed up a green and a tan and a. I did use burnt sienna. I think that's pretty close to the brownish red, reddish brown that's on the actual studio model. But yeah, it's just a quick paint job, a quick black wash. You can see all that spiderweb pattern is actually popping out pretty well with that wash in there. You can see that. That's why I made those lines so deep, so you can get a nice wash in there and those details would pop out. All the details, as you can see, are popping really nice with that black wash. They popped even before black wash, but once that black wash is on there, now they're just really popping right out of the, right off of the hull. You can see all the detail on the that tactical dome back there. I really like the detail on this side and that little vent over here. Let's see if I can show that off, because that definitely looks really nice. There it is. It's right there. It's hard to tell, but there are individual lines. It is a vent. Of course, my favorite little spot right there. So yeah, I think all these details look really nice now on this bridge, as opposed to your kit piece, which was very under detailed. So let's light this up here. I got my little clear piece. I did light block it. I don't think you need to, but I did. So this clear piece just pops right in to the dome. You can see. Underside, you just got this little cavity. It just pops right in there. I just glue it on the top there, and that is what it looks like all lit up. Let's not focus on the background. So yeah, let's get it on there. It's blowing out on camera. Of course, in real life, that's just nice steady red glow. And then on the back side, we have these two windows here. Yeah, this looks really nice in real life. It's just kind of this ominous red glow, and it's all it's uniform. It doesn't have a hot spot in real life. It has just a uniformity to it. So that is what it'll look like all lit up. I think this looks fantastic, but I'm a little biased. So there is what the bridge dome looks like with a little bit of paint and a black wash on it. This edge is still my favorite out of all of it. I just like the detail that's on that edge. Alright guys, I'm going to get back to work. I'll be right back. Sometimes during development you'll get very good ideas from external sources. Mike Mitchell suggested I do these as opaque sleeves. These clear pieces for the Photon launcher, for the forward and the rear. So this was your forward piece, and then this was the rear piece here. And after about 4 or 5 coats of light blocking, I'm still not satisfied with how these look. I thought that would be okay. But we're going with these instead, just because they look better. Also, there's holes there. You can see the details better on this too now. See if I can get this to focus. So there, those are the details on there. And here's the rear. Let's see, there's the rear. So there are 2 pieces because you want a light block behind there on each of these. And so that when you put your LED in here, and this is again a 3 mil will fit in there, you'll be able to fill this up with some clear resin. This cavity I've made in here after the bulb is in here, and then sand it a little bit to make it a little bit more diffuse, if that's what you want. Otherwise, I mean, these are, when they go off, they're pretty bright. They're not meant to be on all the time. They're just meant to flash. And I believe Ralph at Tenna Controls does have a board. I'm not sure for the Klingon Cruiser, but he does have a board for the Enterprise that does have photon flashers, and that would work pretty well. It's got flashing lights. It's got all the flashers, which would work again with the Katinga, because the Katinga's got a few flashers on it, and it would work well with the photons, because they ramp up real quick, and it's just a burst of light, which is what we saw in the motion picture from the Katinga. Also, is just the photons were a flash of light, not a constant on. So there's that one for the front, and this one for the rear. We just, again, you'll just put your LED in there. Again, the tolerances are really tight on these. I have one that's light blocked over here, and this is the smaller one, and as you can see, that's very difficult to try to get out of there. So I made the tolerances on these very tight, so once you get them in here, they're not going anywhere really. So you get your bulb in there. We're going to fill it with some clear resin. We're going to do a little scratching with some sandpaper, and then we'll just super glue these two halves together like that. So I have all the light block ones right here. Painted these up. Here's the smaller, here's the larger. These pieces are almost identical. One's just a little bit thicker than the other, and the thicker one goes to the forward launcher. The smaller size is for the LED. The larger size, of course, is for the launcher itself, and that's how that goes together. And of course, we have our sleeve, our larger sleeve for the forward launcher, and this will just fit in to the back of that like this. We'll show that off more once we get to the assembly part. And yeah, you want to hog this out quite a bit in order to get enough room for this. And as you see, it's not the kit part isn't exactly what you'd call a perfect circle, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of putty and filling in the backside of this little tube, but otherwise that's pretty much what it'll do. And you can push it up as far as you want, I suppose. It does show in the motion picture that the launcher is fairly recessed into this tube, so I kind of like that positioning there, so that's probably where I'm going to put mine. But we will be working on this thing, and we'll show off what exactly it all entails to get this thing together and in the bulb. So I'll be back with that. Okay, now I've got my clear resin in here. I just put a couple of drops in there, and I used a little UV flashlight I have here to cure it. And you can see that helps solidify the bulb into place. Not that it really needs to be, again, but gives you just a little lens there if you want it for these pieces here. See, it goes in like that. We'll light this up here. There we go. You can see it's a nice bright light back there. Lights up all those holes. Lights up that recess too that's around it. And then we have this one here. Same thing. Put some clear resin in there and cured it. And that's what this one looks like. See those little tiny little holes on each of the four corners there. So yeah, it lights up that whole tube. Looks pretty nice. And again, that'll be a more of a flash than a actual on light, unless you really like that light and want it on. So all I have to do now is super glue these two halves together, and that's not going to be too difficult. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to install this into the recess, do a little I'm going to install this in here and then clean up the area around it, as you can see. So all that light coming in there. So we'll show these off when we get the bulb together and the rear end assembled. So we have this deck installed, everything painted. I did some detail painting too, a little dry brushing up here. I actually did some dry brushing of silver in places to make details pop more. You can see kind of along here, just a touch of silver make these details pop even more. It does have a black wash in, you can see it in there, but I wanted to highlight the raised areas a little bit more, the touch of silver, and I kind of did the same thing in here and here too. Just a little detail painting on this part, and this part is actually fairly accurate to the studio model. It doesn't really look it, but trust me, it is. I looked at plenty of pictures. These grills could be a little more detailed. There always could be a little more detail in here, but these what's here on the kit, on the base kit, isn't actually bad. You can see just a little dry brushing and some washing and just a couple of dots of color, really kind of bring those small little details out. And it's the same thing for kind of these vent details or these details here or these underneath, which are fairly accurate too. Didn't do much on the bulb just because this is temped in here as an example. So we have our photon emitter in there, and of course our bridge lights. So let's light those up to show you what they look like. And there we go. That is what the photon emitter is going to look like. All lit up. You can see all those holes around there. I do like the light being back from this front part because it kind of looks like there's a photon being about to be shot out of it, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I like the effect I've got there. And in the bridge, of course, that nice ominous red glow there. That is about what it looks like in person, that nice ominous red glow. I should probably turn some lights off, shouldn't I? Let's turn some lights down. Alright, there is your emitter there. And there's the bridge. If my camera will focus on it. There we go. Yeah. Nice ominous red glow. And we do have those two little windows at the rear. So that is how that turned out. Alright, here is our hull. I put the deck here, the shuttle bay deck, it's just temped in here. Doesn't have any of the grills on it. But this is just here to show off our underslung piece here. I gave this a little bit of a brown wash to help make the details pop a little bit more. You can see. Looks very dirty. Probably don't want to go too heavy on the wash like I did. I did add a little bit of putty here and kind of angled this off, and I used it on either side to help blend this piece with the deck to make them look a little bit more seamless. Probably should do the same on the sides here. Add a little angle, putty them and angle them off just a little bit. I don't think that looks too bad there. Probably want to do a little dry brushing, a little lighter green, maybe silver. Make those details pop. I don't think they look too bad, but yeah, that was a very quick and dirty brown wash just to show off what it looks like. You can see the detail pieces on either side here. I added a little bit of a black wash in there just to make the details pop even more, but you can see them. There's that, and the starboard side here. You can see I'd probably want to stick a little bit of silver in there just to make those details pop just a touch more. You can see that cooling fan there, the vents, all those details are in there. We have our grills and our photon emitter. This is what the caps look like on the ship. And you can kind of see the photon emitter. You'll see it better when we light it up. In fact, I'm going to rig this up for lighting, and I'll be right back to show you what that looks like. Alright, we have everything rigged for lighting. Probably should turn off these lights. There we go. We'll turn off all of our overheads except for the main light. See what that looks like. As you can see, that emitter, you can see all those holes in there. You can see the details. Again, you're seeing a little bit of a edge here because I cut out a little bit too much material. Otherwise, you'd see just a cylinder going back to the light there. Here are our engines. I just have a single bulb up about right here. I'd actually do a couple bulbs maybe if I were doing this for real. And then backing. I'd put a backing behind them. Maybe build a little light box actually for them, because this doesn't look too bad, but it could look better. This is just like this for the example. I'm shorting my bulb out. Here we go. Yeah, that's what those look like. You can see the little honeycombs in there. So yeah, that is what everything looks like. So I'll be right back with the final on this kit. Okay, that about wraps up this video. No, I didn't sneakily finish the other Klingon Katinga. This is my old one. I just wanted something Klingon-y in the shot, and I didn't want to have to finish the ship. Actually, I just noticed, I noticed this kind of working on the ship. On the one that you guys saw, the one that I was building, this is all flat. And I was having problems with this side, and I went and looked at it. This is flat. So I'm not going to finish that ship. It must have been in a very warm loft, and the way it was setting with the other parts flattened to this slight curve that's right here. So it's kind of worthless. Anyways, the site right now is a little on the blinky side. So I'm not going to put this stuff on the site as of September 2023. It will be up there eventually, but we were currently having to rebuild. The last update they pushed through kind of wrecked everything for us. Haha, thank you guys. Thank you, WordPress. So we were having to rebuild from the ground up, and we got hundreds and hundreds of items to, put up there. So it's really slow going, but we're doing it, and eventually it'll get done. But as of right now, the best way to get this, if you guys want this kit, if you want the file, if you want the print, is to actually just email me. Just email me, and I will get one of these out to you, whether you want the file, which is, I think it's $15 for the file, and then $25 for the print. So if you guys are interested in this, I hope you are. I hope I'm bringing you guys something cool to spruce up this old girl here. So I think that wraps it up. So if you guys take care and happy modeling and all that jazz, all the catchphrases right here, just put them right here. And I will talk to you guys in the next video, which will be soon. Let's just say soon. And ignore that stuff. That stuff up there doesn't exist. That's not, stop staring at it. It's not there. Alright guys, you guys take care, and I'm out.